Hey, I'm Chris. I'm 32 years old now. 2 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was 30, living in Maple Ridge, Washington, working hard as a logistics manager. I was married to Marina, this beautiful woman I'd been with for 6 years, 3 of those as husband and wife. We didn't have much, no house, no kids yet, just a rented apartment and more debt than savings. But I thought we were building something together. I was the main provider, pulling in about $4,000 a month while Marina worked part-time at a boutique, adding another $1,500 to our budget. The money was tight, but we managed. At least I managed. I paid the bills, handled the finances, made sure we stayed afloat. Marina, she just kind of floated through life, contributing when it was convenient. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way she was always on her phone. The way conversations between us had become shallow, surface level. The way she'd come home later and later, always with some excuse about work or traffic or meeting a friend. I told myself every marriage has rough patches, that we just needed to reconnect somehow. That's when soccer came into the picture. A colleague at work invited me to join this recreational league. Nothing serious, just guys getting together twice a week to play and blow off steam. I jumped at it. I needed something for myself, something outside of work and the weird tension that had settled into my marriage. Marina started coming to my games, and honestly, I was hopeful. I thought maybe this was what we needed, a shared activity, something to bring us back together. I imagined her cheering me on from the sidelines, us grabbing dinner afterward, reconnecting over my love for the sport. But Marina wasn't there for the soccer. She was there for the alcohol. By halftime of most games, she'd already gone through several beers. By the end, she could barely walk straight. I'd nurse one drink the whole night because I had to drive us home, while Marina would get progressively drunker and louder. After games, the team would hit up different spots, pizza places, sports bars, sometimes someone's house. Marina always wanted to go, and at first, I thought that was good. She was being social, engaging with my friends. But I started noticing something. While I'd make conversation with various teammates, Marina consistently gravitated toward one guy. Faisal. Faisal was someone I'd started to consider a friend. We played well together on the field, had carpooled a few times, shared that easy banter teammates develop. So when Marina laughed at his jokes or they ended up talking in the corner of wherever we were hanging out, I told myself I was being paranoid. She was just being friendly. He was just being polite, right? I ignored the knot in my stomach. I ignored the way she'd smile at her phone and quickly close it when I walked by. I ignored how she started caring more about what she wore to my soccer games than she did about anything else in her life. I ignored all of it because acknowledging those red flags would mean admitting something was wrong. And I wasn't ready for that. The real problem started about 2 weeks before my entire world collapsed. It was a Thursday night, and the team had planned to gather at Faisal's place in Lakewood, about an hour away. I declined the invitation. I had an important meeting early the next morning, and I needed to be sharp. I planned to go home, get a good night's sleep, and be at my best. Marina had other plans. As I drove us home from the game, I noticed the glow of her phone lighting up her face in the darkness. Her thumbs were flying across the screen, message after message. When I asked who she was texting, she barely looked up. "Just the team group chat," she said dismissively. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until later, was that she was actually direct messaging Faisal, asking him for a ride to the party. The betrayal was happening right there in the passenger seat, inches away from me, and I had no idea. About 10 minutes from our apartment, Marina turned to me with a question that made my stomach drop. Would it be okay if I still went to the party tonight? Faisal said he could give me a ride. Everything about that question felt wrong. Why would my wife want to go to a party without me, an hour away, getting a ride from another man? But beyond that, something about her tone bothered me. She wasn't really asking permission. She was informing me of what she'd already decided, just dressing it up as a question to seem considerate. "No," I said firmly. "I'd rather you didn't. Let's just go home together." Her face changed instantly. The smile disappeared, replaced by this cold hardness I'd never seen before. She turned away, staring out the window, and didn't say another word for the rest of the drive. The silence was suffocating, thick with an anger I didn't understand. I'd just asked my wife to come home with me instead of partying without me late into the night. Was that really so unreasonable? When I pulled into our apartment complex and parked, I expected Marina to get out, for us to walk upstairs together, maybe talk through whatever was bothering her. Instead, headlights flashed in my rearview mirror. Another car pulled in right behind us. It was Faisal's car. Before I could process what was happening, Marina unbuckled her seatbelt, opened the passenger door, and stepped out. I sat there, frozen, watching my wife walk away from my car and climb into another man's vehicle. "Marina," I called out, finally finding my voice, but she didn't even look back. Faisal's car reversed, and within seconds, they were gone. The taillights disappeared into the night, and I was left sitting alone in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The rage that filled me wasn't explosive. It was cold, controlled, the kind of anger that simmers just below the surface and burns slowly. My wife had just openly defied me, embarrassed me, chosen another man's company over my wishes right in front of my face, and there was nothing I could do about it. I sat in that car for probably 20 minutes, just trying to understand what had happened. When had things gotten this bad? How had I lost so much ground in my own marriage that my wife would do something like this? What did it mean that she'd choose a party with Faisal over coming home with her husband? I finally went inside and lay in our bed alone, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through 1,000 scenarios. Marina came home around 4 in the morning. I heard her fumbling with her keys, stumbling through the apartment, getting sick in the bathroom. Part of me wanted to help her, but a bigger part of me felt nothing but contempt. I pretended to be asleep when she finally crawled into bed. She passed out immediately, and I lay there beside her, feeling like a stranger was sleeping in my wife's place. I didn't know it then, but that night was just the tip of the iceberg. The truth was so much worse than I could have imagined, and it was all sitting in a device I'd forgotten about, waiting for me to find it. About a week after that horrible night, I was cleaning out our nightstand drawer, looking for an old phone charger, when my hand brushed against something I'd forgotten about: Marina's old iPad. She'd gotten a new one about a year earlier and had tossed this one in the drawer. The battery had been dead for months. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe boredom, maybe some subconscious instinct, but I plugged it in. I wasn't trying to spy. I wasn't even particularly suspicious at that moment. I was just restless, looking for something to occupy my mind while Marina was out at one of her frequent girls' nights. The device took forever to power up. When it finally did, I entered Marina's passcode. She used the same 4 digits for everything. The home screen appeared and I started scrolling through old photos, remembering when we'd seemed happier. Then I noticed something. Marina had never logged out of her messaging apps on this device. Everything was still synced, still active. Out of curiosity more than suspicion, I opened her messages. Most of it was boring. Conversations with friends about nothing, work stuff, family group chats. But then I saw Faisal's name, and something in my gut told me to stop, that whatever was in that thread would change everything. But I couldn't stop myself. I tapped his name. The screen filled with messages, and my entire world shattered in that moment. These weren't innocent conversations. They were explicit, graphic, detailed descriptions of encounters that made me physically sick. Marina wasn't just texting Faisal flirtatiously. She was bragging about nights they'd spent together. She described in disgusting detail what they'd done, where they'd done it, how many times. She sent photos I'd never seen. She made plans for future meetups. And it wasn't just Faisal. The messages mentioned another teammate too, Derek, another guy I'd thought was my friend. Marina had been sleeping with both of them, sometimes on the same night, sometimes in our apartment, in our bed. My hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold the iPad. I scrolled further back, finding more evidence, more proof. This wasn't some drunken one-time mistake. This had been going on for months, deliberate, ongoing, enthusiastic. She was actively pursuing these men, planning meetups, lying to me about where she was going. One message made my blood run cold. "Chris has no idea. He's so clueless. Last night while he was asleep, I was thinking about you. Can't wait until Thursday." Thursday. That had been 3 days ago. Marina had told me she had to work late. I'd eaten dinner alone, watched TV alone, gone to bed alone, believing my wife was at the boutique. According to these messages, she'd been at Faisal's apartment. But the message that broke me, the one that destroyed whatever was left of my heart, was from that night she'd gotten into Faisal's car. That was incredible. Best night ever. Can't believe we pulled it off with Derek, too. Chris was so mad when I left with you, you should have seen his face. They'd laughed about it. Marina had betrayed me, humiliated me, and then mocked me to the man she'd done it with. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. The iPad slipped from my hands and clattered to the floor. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left, dry heaving over the toilet, my body trying to purge the poison of what I'd just learned. I sat on the cold bathroom floor for over an hour, unable to move, unable to think. Every memory of the past few months was being recontextualized. All those girls' nights, all those late work shifts, all those AA meetings she'd claimed to attend later. Every single one had been a lie. She'd been living a completely separate life, sleeping with my so-called friends, all while coming home to kiss me goodnight. When Marina came home that night, she found me sitting on the couch with the iPad on the coffee table in front of me. She knew immediately. Her face went completely white. "Chris, she started, but I cut her off. "Don't," I said quietly. My voice didn't even sound like mine. "Don't you dare try to lie to me right now. I've read everything, Marina. Every single message. Every detail. Every lie." She started crying immediately, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. I just stared at this woman I no longer recognized and waited for her to speak. "It's not what it looks like," she tried, but I wasn't having it. "I read everything, Marina. Every single message. Every detail. Every lie. So please don't insult me by pretending this is something other than what it is." The truth came spilling out between sobs. Yes, she'd been seeing Faisal. Yes, it had been going on for months. Yes, Derek had been involved too. Yes, she'd brought them to our apartment when I was at work. Yes, she'd been lying about almost everything. I listened to all of it with this strange sense of detachment, like I was watching it happen to someone else. When she finished, I asked one question. "Why?" Marina looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "I don't know. I was drunk most of the time. It just happened. It just happened. Like betrayal was weather, something beyond anyone's control. Like my heartbreaking was an unfortunate accident. Pack your things," I told her. "Go stay with your parents. I can't look at you right now." She started begging, promising she'd change, but I walked to our bedroom and closed the door. I heard her crying in the living room for another hour before she finally packed a bag and left. When the apartment fell silent, I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering if anything would ever feel normal again. Marina came back 2 days later with a prepared speech. She blamed the alcohol, painted herself as someone struggling with addiction whose judgment had been compromised. "I have a problem, Chris," she said. "I'm an alcoholic. I did terrible things when I was drunk, but I don't even remember most of it." Part of me wanted to believe her. If it was the alcohol, maybe there was hope. Maybe we could fix this. Marina promised everything. AA meetings, therapy, couples counseling. She cried and begged, and I found myself nodding along, agreeing to try. But I couldn't shake my doubts. Those messages hadn't been written by someone blacked out. They'd been clear, detailed, enthusiastic. Still, I gave her a chance. I also called a divorce attorney just in case. Marina kept her promises at first. She went to AA meetings, found a therapist, booked us couples counseling. For a few weeks it seemed like maybe she was serious, but I couldn't let go of my suspicion. I started monitoring her, checking her email through the old iPad, tracking her location through our family phone account. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. We went to couples therapy together. Marina delivered her rehearsed speech about alcoholism and regret. Then the therapist asked me what I wanted. I looked at Marina and said the words I'd been holding back. "I want a divorce." The room went silent. Marina begged the therapist to change my mind, but the therapist supported my decision. For the first time since this nightmare began, someone validated my choice not to accept what had happened. I started seeing the therapist individually after that. Those sessions became a lifeline where I could process everything without judgment. Meanwhile, Marina doubled down on trying to win me back. Love letters, favorite meals, endless promises. But my monitoring revealed the truth. She hadn't stopped. She was still lying, and I was about to discover just how deep her deception went. One evening, I noticed a new app on Marina's phone, buried in a folder easily missed. When I checked the old iPad, it was there too. It was a secure messaging platform designed for disappearing conversations. My hands shook as I opened it. There, in those supposedly secure messages, was the truth Marina had been hiding behind all her tears and therapy appointments. She was still talking to Faisal, still planning meetups. The messages went back to just days after her tearful return. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Chris thinks I'm at therapy. Last night was amazing. I feel terrible lying to him, but I can't stop thinking about you." I read weeks of messages. Each one was another knife in my back. These messages weren't slurred or incoherent. They were clear, conscious, deliberate. The alcoholism story was a lie. Marina was making conscious choices to betray me while performing regret. That night, I came closer to the edge than I'd ever been. I stood in our bathroom at 2 a.m. with a bottle of sleeping pills, staring at my reflection. I looked like a ghost. I opened the bottle, counted the pills, thought about how easy it would be to make the pain stop. Then my phone rang. My sister Sarah, calling at 2 a.m. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Chris? I just had this feeling I needed to call you. Are you okay?" I looked at the pills scattered on the floor where I'd dropped them and started crying. "No, I'm really not okay." Sarah was at my door in 30 minutes. She stayed with me through the night, and in the morning, we took the iPad and all the evidence to my coworker Mark. "Keep this somewhere I can't get to it," I told him. "I'm not safe with it right now." That's when I understood. Marina's betrayal wasn't just destroying my marriage. It was trying to destroy me, and I had to fight back. I made a decision. I would extract myself from this marriage as cleanly as possible. I stopped confronting Marina. Instead, I documented everything quietly. Every lie, every location, every penny spent. I met with my attorney again, this time with evidence. Marina's messages, location data, receipts. "This is more than enough," my attorney said. "We can push for a clean break." I authorized the paperwork but held off on serving Marina. First, I systematically removed her from all accounts. I opened a new bank account, redirected my paycheck, changed passwords. I worked with my landlord to get her off the lease. I moved her belongings into storage. Through all of this, I maintained a facade, civil, even kind, letting her believe I was considering reconciliation. Marina grew careless, thinking she'd successfully manipulated me. She went out more, came home less. Every lie just strengthened my resolve. The breaking point came when Marina's cousin spotted her and Faisal at a restaurant, holding hands, acting like a couple. Word got back to her family, then to me. The lies were collapsing under their own weight. I confronted Marina one final time with cold logic. I laid out what I knew and gave her an ultimatum. "You're going to agree to an uncontested divorce. If you fight me, I'll show everyone who you really are. Every message, every lie. You'll lose everything." Cornered, she agreed. 2 weeks later, I had her signature on divorce papers. The months that followed were strange. Marina moved out officially, going public with Faisal. On Valentine's Day, she posted a tribute calling him her soulmate. When I saw it, I was surprised to find it didn't hurt. It felt distant, like reading about strangers. The divorce finalized in April. I walked out of the attorney's office a single man. No support obligations, no shared debts. I felt lighter than I had in over a year. I sold furniture that reminded me of Marina, repainted the apartment, started cooking properly. I switched soccer leagues, took up new hobbies. Therapy shifted from crisis management to genuine healing. I learned to recognize the red flags I'd missed, the ways I'd compromised myself. Life developed a new rhythm. It wasn't the life I'd imagined, but it was peaceful in a way marriage never had been. I slept well. I laughed again. Slowly, I healed. 8 months after the divorce, I heard Marina had married again. Not Faisal, but a stranger from Tennessee she'd met online and never met in person until their wedding day. When her mother called to tell me, apologizing as if I deserved to know, I felt a strange mixture of pity and gratitude. Marina's chaos was now someone else's problem, happening far from my life. 1 year after my divorce, I'm 32 and rebuilding. Some days are harder than others. I still have moments where trust feels impossible, where I wonder if I'll ever open myself up to love again. But those moments are increasingly outnumbered by better ones. Days where I appreciate my freedom. Evenings where peace feels real. The hardest moment came unexpectedly when I saw Marina's gender reveal video online. She was pregnant. For a minute, I couldn't breathe. Not because I wanted her back, but because I was mourning the future I'd once imagined. I'd wanted children, wanted to build a family, and there was Marina living that dream with a stranger while I was starting over. The grief was real and sharp, but I let myself feel it, and then it passed. The next day, the pain had dulled. A week later, I'd gone hours without thinking about it. I understand now that healing isn't the absence of pain. It's the ability to carry pain without letting it define you. Marina's betrayal will always be part of my story, but it doesn't have to be the main chapter. It's the difficult middle that led to growth and eventually a better life. I still have hard days, moments where I question whether I'll ever trust again. But I also have increasingly more good days where I feel genuinely happy, where my life feels full, where the future seems open with possibility. To anyone listening who's walked a similar path, betrayal leaves scars, but scars are proof of healing. You survived. You're still here. The life you'll build from this rubble can be stronger and more authentic than what came before. If my story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Are you surviving betrayal right now? Your story matters. Your voice helps others feel less alone. Subscribe for more true stories of heartbreak, survival, and the difficult journey back to wholeness. Together, we illuminate the shadows. Together, we heal.